the only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself.
Hi, hope you guys are doing well. It's time for my review of episode 7 of House of the Dragon, Driftmark. Anyways, as always, I'll focus on the most important parts, tell you what I liked about the episode, what I didn't like, and in the end I'll give it an overall rating from 1 to 10. So let's start right at the beginning, and of course we start with Laena Velarion's funeral at Driftmark at the high tide, and I gotta say I really liked it. Lots of main characters there. I really enjoyed Aemond Targaryen throwing shade at the funeral. Finally more High Valyrian, that's something that I think they could have utilized even more in House of the Dragon. I get it, they are trying to save those moments for the very special ones, like whenever Rhaenyra and Daemon are talking about something that is gonna impact the overall story. So it really was nice to see it here. I think they could have done way more with it, especially characters like Otto Hightower should be able to talk some High Valyrian. The funeral itself was of course very sad. It was quite sad to see Rhaenys in this episode. She suffered a lot. She suffered so much for decades even. Her being cast aside as Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. And now she's lost her daughter and her son, but we'll get to that. In general, I'd say you could really feel the rift between our fractions in this episode, between blacks and greens, and this was something that Josh from Constantine Films mentioned on our podcast last week. He said that this wasn't about Rhaenyra and Alicent, it was about the blacks versus the greens, and he was 100% right. This was the blacks versus greens episode. I really like how I gradually evolves over the course of this episode. It all starts out quite wholesome. I really enjoyed the little scene we got between Aemond and Jace. He seemed to hesitate. I think he wanted to give him his condolences about Harwin Strong dying, but he couldn't because he can't openly talk about it. Not yet anyway. And if we compare that with the very last scenes we have in this episode, it just goes to show how much really happens in these character-focused episodes. We of course get another glimpse of Helena being a prophetic dreamer. I think now it's really set in stone. And the way I interpreted this scene was that she had a dream about the Dance of the Dragons. I am very curious to see where this goes. I think this is a phenomenal writing choice. This is something that they pull from the original A Song of Ice and Fire series, something that obviously Game of Thrones didn't bother to do. They can implement the magical aspects of A Song of Ice and Fire that we never got to see in Game of Thrones. We also finally get more scenes of Rhaenys and Corlys in this episode. Finally, I think there was just a nice contrast between both characters. Obviously, you have Corlys being the very proud and ambitious man, while Rhaenys is the reasonable one. She, in this scenario, obviously just wants to grieve the loss of her daughter, and even in this moment, Corlys can't seem to let go of the past and also the future. He's very ambitious, and I really like the scene. I think we need more of that, but who knows? Maybe they'll turn it around in these next 3 episodes. The highlight of the entire episode for me was Aemond claiming Vhagar. I really liked how they played out. How can you steal a dragon if you are the son of the king? I think it was a very wholesome scene. After years of bullying, he finally managed to bind a dragon to his will. And it is the largest one. I think that's quite ironic and it's very deserving for the character. Whenever I say that Aemond Targaryen is one of my favorite characters of the entire story, people always get confused because of all of the monstrous things that the character does, but I personally love him for that. And that is possible. You know, I think instead of justifying these terrible acts of our characters in this story, we should just embrace it. It just makes for way better conversation. And Daemon Targaryen really said it best in this episode. Each of us is capable of depravity. All of these characters do monstrous things. We shall see how that whole thing goes. I'm neither team blacks or greens. As far as that goes, I'm just here for the ride and I enjoy characters from both sides. And Aemon is one of them, so here you go. Anyways, the fight scene was okay. It was as good as a fight scene between children can be. I was quite worried that this would be quite cringeworthy, but that is not the case. What follows is of course the scene of Alicent charging at Rhaenyra. The scene we've all been waiting for, and they did a phenomenal job. The performances of each and every actor that was standing there was brilliant. Emma Darcy, Olivia Cook, Paddy Considine, and so on and so forth. I could go on. And in general, I really love this parallel to Game of Thrones. Viserys was demanding answers, and Corlys was rushing in and asking, what's the meaning of this? Like, this was pretty much identical. This really was the breaking point. The Seven Kingdoms are divided now, and it was Greens against Blacks, and that became very clear with those last shots. They had the Blacks on one side and the Greens on the other side, and we should get used to it. Just two more things now. Daemon and Rhaenyra marrying each other was a great scene. It was very unique and new. I kind of feel bad for Rhaena and Baela. They just had to say goodbye to their mother, and now they're witnessing this marriage. It is a bit weird, but that's just how the Targaryens are. I guess they are different. It's kind of sad that we won't get to see the reaction of King Viserys and the other main characters of the show, because we are in for yet another time jump after this episode. But I'll get more into it in a different video very soon. I kind of changed my mind a little from the last time I talked about this time jump stuff last week. It's not groundbreaking to me because I kind of know why they are doing it as fast as they are, but it is definitely still a pity. And now the last thing for today, Laenor survives. And I think it's really wholesome. I really liked that scene between him and Rhaenyra. That was very beautiful. It just raises a few questions, because what the hell happens to Sea Smoke now? I see a few fan theories going around that Laenor is gonna be Adam in the later seasons. But still, we have 6 years of that dragon roaming around. I think Ryan Condal said something along the lines of the bond between dragons being way stronger when the dragon is born to the rider. So maybe that explains it. I don't know, we shall see. I hope it'll be explained. I hope we get an answer for that. And other than that, it's also quite sad for Rhaenys. She just lost her daughter. Now she supposedly lost her son as well, and it's a bit hardcore. Give her a break for once. So all in all, this episode was great. I really enjoyed all the character moments. Once again, the performances were incredible, and you can really feel that we're heading towards war now. Greens against Blacks is in full play now. I really loved the tension in this episode. Really kept me at the edge of my seat, and I think it was definitely one of the better episodes of this season. I give episode 7 of House of the Dragon an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Would very much appreciate that. And until then, take care and see us later.